everybody. I know, a little bit nuts to be smiling at myself, but I was preparing myself to start filming because I just couldn't get myself in the right frame of mind, and so I decided to make very primitive sounds. It seems to have loosened me enough so that I can find an inner light to convey in this week's recording. Pluto went direct. We're in Libra season, and karma has just begun a new cycle. It's probably not going to be something that you tangibly recognize. But if you're feeling anything different or anything unusual, I'd say that there's a strong case for thinking that it has some kind of correlation with the new karmic cycle. There is a strange dichotomy at hand. On the one hand, I think that we're feeling a certain lightness because this karmic cycle has come to an end, and on the other hand, there's an uneasiness over the fact that we actually have no clue where this is taking us. And perhaps even a little bit, for those of you who have a strong intuitive side, a little bit of apprehension about what lies ahead, because there is some heavy astrology ahead for us in the coming year. And we've been talking about 2020 astrology for the last couple of years in the realm of people who are interested in astrology. And well, the fact of the matter is, it's October. We are practically in 2020. Hard to believe, but it is true. But first of all, I'd like to focus a little bit more on the Libran energy, because in this week's reading we have a lot of cups and a lot of Libran references. And Libra is the sign of justice, of balance, of harmony. It's a very peaceful sign. It is having some funky aspects with Mars right now, and because they are very opposite. Mars is action and fiery, sort of affirmative, warlike, aggressive pursuit, and as we talked about last week, Libra is completely the opposite. So there's still a lot of this energy of feeling like maybe the inside isn't matching the outside, or maybe we're finding ourselves up against a bunch of people who are being a little bit confrontational, or who also are giving off that vibe of not knowing how to externalize things, and so awkwardly may come across as being either aggressive or repressive. Either way, everyone's going through it, so have no fear. It will eventually even itself out. I think it's really important to stay in the Libran vibe and remember to stay harmonious, to stay balanced, to step away from things when we do not feel that we are in the right state of mind to be able to confront them, especially if it involves other people. This is not a fast-moving period of time. We are still in that Saturn stationary direct phase. We are still being given the enormous gift of hindsight. We're being asked to still take a good hard look at what we have experienced over the last 2 years, and in the last, since the month of April, which is when Pluto went retrograde. And now that Pluto is actually moving forward, and that karmic cycle has come to an end, we are been given the opportunity to have a little bit of a think about all of the things we've experienced. Now, we are in Libra season, but if you look at what's going on in our Western politics, we are easily reminded that nothing in the outside world seems particularly balanced right now. And I would like to take this opportunity to remind us all that we need to seek balance with other people. This is no longer a time for tribalism. This is not a period of time where there is anything to be gained from trying to differentiate ourselves from other people. We've had this karmic lesson, which has been all about letting go of the Piscean energies that kept us in victimization mode for a long, long time. We are fully capable of recognizing that that no longer serves us. And so it is absolutely imperative that we take the time in looking at the ridiculousness of our political structures to avoid further separation in the way that we view other people. It is not going to work anymore. Yes, there are people who have very, very different opinions from us. Yes, we have 1,000,001 reasons for believing that what we believe is right. But you know what? With Uranus in Taurus, and with the Pluto and Saturn energies in Capricorn, we are in for a rude awakening if we think that we have it all figured out. Because unfortunately, for anyone who feels that they do have it all figured out, they're not understanding the process of life, which is that we learn from our differences. We learn from trying to understand how the other thinks. In other words, if you are riding around thinking to yourself that you are defined by leftist beliefs and that all right-thinking people are completely nuts, or you know, that they even find themselves represented in the confusion of politics today, either side, there's a fundamental flaw in that way of looking at things, and that is going to come to a head. I have no idea how that's going to come to a head, but it is pretty much predetermined. And so right now, what I think that we all need to do is spend a little bit more time outside of outrage, outside of black and white thinking, outside of being in the position of thinking that, you know, if something goes our way, that it means that somehow that is a goal within itself. It isn't, because you know what? If Dingaling gets to be president, or if Numbskull is like re-elected, or whatever, you know, I'm not using names, or if Brexit happens or doesn't happen, it does not have any finality to it, because there's just going to be more and more and more and more. It is a cycle, because the only place that we can actually find any certainty about our destiny and the way that we feel about the world is through how we feel about ourselves and what we are doing to make ourselves a better person. Because that is the root of true revolution. Is how do you, you know, who cares what your politicians are doing if you haven't figured out how to treat yourself with respect, and therefore then have the capacity to treat somebody else with respect, to find compassion, to find empathy, to find something other than tribal reinforcement based on anger and provocation and, frustrations. You know your boundaries. You don't need anybody else to tell you what they are. Just live by your values. And maybe you'll teach somebody something. Or maybe they'll teach you something if you keep your mind open. Anyway, that is what I wanted to say about Libra season, because I think, a lot of us are missing the point of what it is that we're all feeling right now. So, getting into the reading, even if I have tea all over my leg. Our underlying energy this week, the Fool, brand new start, brand new cycle, and having a little lightness in our step so that we can actually move forward with a little bit more joy and a little bit more pep. Again, like I said, we have no clue what's coming, but we can recognize when karmic cycles have been completed, and astrology certainly helps to reinforce those notions. And so do these cards, because what we have at the center of our reading, I have to remember what was clarifying what, we have the Queen of Cups, who is sitting on her throne, feeling very, very self-aware. Her subconscious mind, represented by the waters, surrounds her. She does not need to step into it. She is an observation of it. She carries her cup. It is the only cup in the cup suit that has its lid on, meaning that she does not feel the need to externalize those emotions either. She's totally balanced. She knows what she needs. She knows what she thinks. She knows what she feels. And therefore she's ready for something new. And what do we have to denotate that? We have the Wheel of Fortune. Huge winds of change taking place. To clarify these, we have the Four of Cups with the Queen of Cups. The Four of Cups being the person who looks bored out of their mind and who is not interested in anything. That is ending with this Wheel of Fortune. We are moving into Ace of Swords energy, clarifying that Wheel of Fortune, which means that we are being given the gift of a very clear intellect, which is allowing us to have clarity of thought in how we navigate our future. It's a sense of self-confidence in our beliefs. We have done the work, as I keep saying. It doesn't change from week to week because these are large karmic cycles. And it's just confirmation, probably essentially, of what we've accomplished since our last reading together, is that we've been working to get to a place of having clearer thoughts. I know personally that I was very, very foggy for a couple of weeks. I was just having a really, really hard time actually formulating ideas outside of my brain. And that has shifted as a result of coming into a self-confidence emotionally and understanding why things have happened the way that they have. In our past, we have the King of Swords, again, he is the authoritarian, truth-slaying king who faces forward and has no fear of any challenges that come his way, because his ideas have been reinforced by experience and learning. And that was clarified by the Justice card. So again, this to me is saying that it was a long road to get there in order to balance these things out. Again, it could also be a timestamp card because of the fact that this is the Libra card. And so coming into Libra season, we have come into this new sense of ideas as, I want to say weapons, but I don't mean that in an aggressive way. I mean weapons as in how we are able to navigate our choices. So there are weapons for our own use against our own inner demons, things that don't serve us anymore. Because the underlying past energy is the Three of Swords, and it was clarified by the Eight of Swords. So what we're looking at there is the slaying of the patterns that we have been caught up in that have kept us in a place of feeling lack emotionally, of focusing on betrayal, dishonor, disloyalty, things that have caused our ego to be shaken and stirred and chewed up and spat out too. In terms of the relationships that we've had, whether that be romantic, family, friends, enemies. And coming to the understanding that none of that had any value in the outside world. It was all coming from within. It was the, when we come to a full understanding subconsciously of our processes and then learn to take that into our lives and manifest new behaviors that stop us from having codependent relationships, from getting involved in, victim, rescuer, archetypes, empath, narcissist archetypes, whatever the yin and yang aspects were, where they weren't actually forming a whole, they were bouncing off of each other. Those things we realize come from within. They do not come from outside of us. They are our own way of perceiving our experiences. And as I've said before, the Eight of Swords, she can take off that thing that's tying her down, and her blindfold in a heartbeat. She doesn't have to keep those things on. She is living in trepidation and fear of the unknown. But that is gone. It does not serve any purpose, and we know it. In our immediate future, we have the Page of Cups, clarified by the Magician. This again is like very deeply connected to how we perceive ourselves and how we stop finding ourselves at the mercy of our fears and the things that prevent us from seeing the gifts around us. We are on the verge of understanding better how to manifest and how to move forward in a way of total empowerment, of total faith, of totally understanding that we don't need anything from the outside in order to evolve and grow. And that therefore, when we're given a gift from the outside, in the realm of emotions, we accept it with grace and honor and dignity. And we observe it as generosity. And therefore, we come into full balance and alignment in terms of how we reciprocate. That is what this is. Crowning our reading, again, another card of ending, clarified by much more positive cards, but we have the infamous 10 of Swords, the person with the 10 swords in their back. It's been hard. This karmic cycle has been really hard, and if you feel like you've had 10 swords in your back, there is a reason for that. It has been very, very difficult to come to terms with letting go of the false narratives that we have held onto so tightly. But this end of the cycle that was completed when Pluto went direct a couple of days ago has led to the star, the perfect wish card, the perfect full alignment of spirituality and materialism, being in a place of vulnerability and strength all at once. If you look at this card, some other things that I've never shared, you look at the stream pouring out of the jug. There are 5 mini rivers flowing away from what she's pouring out, and those represent the 5 senses. Now, in the sky, you have the star, which is the enlightenment, and surrounded by 7 smaller stars that represent the 7 chakras. As it was also clarified by the Knight of Cups, and we just had the Page of Cups in our future, our immediate future, I'd say that there's some emotional payoff coming our way, that we are going to be encountering people or opportunities of the emotional realm that are going to reward us for the hard work that we've done in completing this enormous karmic lesson. So be on the lookout for that. Now, yes, it could be a knight in shining armor for some of you, but it also could be an amazing new friendship, or it could just be an experience emotionally that you have that shows you how enlightened you have become and how at peace with yourself you feel, and how in alignment with the elements you have become. All depends on what you're putting out into the world or what it is that you need, but there are gifts on the horizon. In your present current state of mind, we have the Ace of Wands. So, are we feeling inspired yet? Is that what this is all about? It's clarified by two swords. The Page of Swords. Ooh, is that the page? No, that's the Knight of Swords. And that's the Page of Swords. And these are fast-moving energies. So you may be feeling that as we move into these direct energies with Pluto and Saturn both going direct, and as we actually move closer to Scorpio season, and there are already scorpionic energies moving into our realm, you may be finding yourself in the position where there's a lot of manifestations of whatever the next karmic lesson is going to be. And they're coming at you in a way that does not actually make any sense to you yet, and that you're not going to recognize or acknowledge in that way yet, because we don't know what the path is yet. But there's a lot that could be going on right now for you that is making you feel a little overwhelmed. Not in a negative way, unless you make it negative. But I wouldn't know how to explain it better than that. But you may be feeling a little bit overwhelmed by something. In your environment, which I'm taking more as an advice card, you have the Hermit. If you take a good look inside the Hermit's lantern, is it showing up? I don't know. I don't think it's showing up very well. Oh, there. The star. So, the star that we were just talking about in our crowning energies, this star here, is inside this lantern. So, what that says is that we have to remind ourselves, because we're going through this fast-paced energy that we were just looking at with those two, the Page and the Knight of Swords, and with the very fertile Ace of Wands, you gotta still remind yourself to go inwards and do some meditation work. It's really important. And it was clarified by the Six of Wands. Now what that tells me is that you need to spend a little bit of time in meditation on your accomplishments. That is to say that rather than looking outside for validation of the victory that you have achieved through this karmic graduation, you need to take the time to actually think long and hard about how that has made you grow. And the only way to really do that is to do it quietly in solitude and in meditation. But it's a good thing. This is gonna feel good. But take the time. As I've said in previous readings, even if you are not a person that gravitates towards meditation, just put on some quiet classical music, as you may be hearing in the background, or put on a guided meditation, or just lie on the floor with your legs up on the wall and close your eyes and let your mind wander, and then give yourself little cues every now and then about what you want to focus on. What has this, ask the question, what has this journey been about? What have I accomplished? How am I feeling? What is good about the things that I've experienced in the last 2 years? And that is essentially what meditation can be. But don't keep watching television all the time, or whatever it is that you're doing that actually like has somebody else placing thoughts and scenarios into your head, that's great every now and then, but you have to give yourself that time. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. Nobody needs that level of distraction from themselves. In our hopes and fears, we have the 10 of Wands, clarified by the 9 of Pentacles. Now, what's interesting is that the 10 of Wands it is a completion card. It would be the karmic completion card that we saw with the 10 of Swords. You know, this wasn't an easy journey. And this person is still, you know, they can see the castle or their house in the distance, and they're really close, and they've just got to go for that, like, last, you know, when you need that last adrenaline push, like when you're ready to give up. But because this is in our hopes and fears, what it's telling me is that we're afraid that the trials and tribulations aren't over. And of course they're never really over, because I mean, if we're learning, we're going to constantly start new cycles, and we're going to reach new places of you know, every time you reach a victory, you know, yes, you can sit and take in the view for a little while, but inevitably you're going to want to learn something new, and you're going to want to better understand something. So, because it's clarified by the 9 of Pentacles, I'd say it's the confirmation of the Hermit energy that we were just looking at, and clarified by the 6 of Wands, that we need to actually give ourselves a break and actually say to ourselves, we have come to completion of something, and that we need a little bit of time for self-contentment and to take in what we've accomplished and feel good about ourselves, because we're going to need it moving forward into the next lesson. As I said, the astrology for 2020 is like pretty intense, and I'm sure that we're all going to be tested in some shape or form. That goes without saying. Society is not going to be what we have known it to be. Very, very dramatic music to accompany my thoughts. Our outcome, interesting. We have the 7 of Cups. And, well, I took a bunch of clarifiers on this, but like the initial clarifier that we had of the 7 of Cups was the 5 of Cups and the 2 of Pentacles. So, let's get into this, because it's a little bit complicated. But what I would say is, you know, if you take a good look at the 7 of Cups, you know, it is the idea that we have a lot of options and a lot of opportunities ahead of us, which is a great thing. But, as is the case always in life, some cups are filled with treasure, and others not so much. I mean, unless you really want a snake in your cup, or you want like a dragon in your cup, or you want a tower moment in a cup, you gotta learn to be discerning. And 2 of Pentacles is the juggler. He's on solid ground, and he can juggle it. So this is a confirmation that we have the power to do it. But what gets in our way is that we are still a little stuck in some emotional baggage. And it's always important to remember that if you get stuck in the emotional baggage, then the chances are you're going to pick the wrong cup, and you're going to go for the dragon, the snake, or the tower. And that's fine, because that's what life is all about. It's about learning. But because this whole reading was about completing a karmic cycle and getting to a point where we know some of those answers, the idea is that you want to be this dude juggling and like staying on solid ground in spite of the topsy-turvy seas in the background. You know, leave that to the people on those boats to like navigate. So pick wisely, be mindful, because the clarifiers that I took on these cards individually were, for the 7 of Cups, I got the 9 of Wands. Now, because we just had the 10 of Wands in the hopes and fears, we're actually looking at the fact that rather than needing to get to this energy, because this is we've already reached this completion. That's what we're not understanding, perhaps. We've already reached that completion. So this is the, you know, I'm run down and tired from all this stuff, like weary, wary, boundary obsessed, you know. This is not where we want to be. And to just to gather my thoughts in terms of how I'm trying to put this together, what I'm trying to say is that, you know, there are still obstacles getting in the way of making the right choices. And they were clarified further by these 2 cards, the Ace of Pentacles, which was clarifying the... Which one was it? It was clarifying the 5 of Cups. So in other words, the opportunity is there. Keep looking for the opportunity. Stop focusing on the spilled cups. And the King of Cups was clarifying the 2 of Pentacles. So what this tells me is that we have to sit in our own authority over our emotions and have faith that the work is done and that therefore the focus is something that we already hold within ourselves. We already know how to make these choices. We already know what's right for us. We know what cup has a dragon in it and what cup has jewels in it. Just trust that you have the ability to keep the harmony and the flow. Again, there's a lot of cards in this reading that are about harmony and flow, and we're still struggling to overcome these fears that are completely attached to things in the past that we have outgrown. We have a tendency to fall into this energy if we don't embody this energy. And the only way we embody this energy is by going inwards and doing that inner work. And because there's a lot of new movement and new energy coming into our environments right now, it's really, really, really important to understand the crossroads that we're at. That, you know, if we don't find enthusiasm in the way that we approach our experiences and our opportunities, then we just get stuck in this energy. And when we're stuck in this energy, we're not facing the fact that we have the King and the Queen of Cups. That is the perfect yin-yang balance. That is the male and female, the divine masculine and the divine feminine within us, in perfect alignment, in perfect balance. We have it inside of us. We don't need to doubt ourselves any longer. But there's going to be tests. There's going to be moments when we feel tested, and when these old demons come back to haunt us. But remember, every time they do, the center of our reading, we had these. This indicates that the change is real, it's happened, it's happening, and this is your power. You can do it. It's rough, I get it. We're at the very beginning of a new journey, and look at him. He's ready to step off the cliff. But that's because he has faith, which is what the Star card is all about. And however faith is defined in your world, maybe that's what an Ace of Pentacles is. Maybe that's what an Ace of Swords is. Maybe that's what an Ace of Wands is. We have 3 aces. The one ace that's missing is the Ace of Cups. So the fact that we have the King and Queen of Cups and the Page of Cups and the Knight of Cups, but we don't actually have the Ace of Cups, says to me that it isn't quite the time for the opportunity in terms of emotions. It isn't quite the time where that new karmic cycle is ready to begin. So focus on these aspects, which are your material aspects, your intellectual aspects, and your inspiration aspects. And then that's what will bring the Ace of Cups. So there's a lot of letting go that has taken place. Remember to be in your lightness and to feel within your power to choose the right opportunities. Now on to our weekly Spirit Animal Oracle card. And this week I pulled the Bat Spirit card. Number 5, a rebirth is assured. Now I think of bats as being very Libran because, let's face it, they hang upside down, so they must have really, really good balance, especially if they can sleep that way. So, what is this week's oracle message? After something has run its course and died or been released, finished, surrendered, completed, or ended, there is promise of a new beginning. I mean, you can't make this shit up. This is pretty much the whole reading. Rebirth is assured just as night gives way to dawn and the bat emerges from the darkness of a womb-like cave. Bat Spirit has come to remind you that this rebirth is a miraculous one, for the very best elements of what you had to give up in the death of the old are still present in this new amazing life forming now. This is the miracle and magic of rebirth in every aspect of your life, including the rebirth of faith in your ability to establish new and healthy relationships. Oh my god, I could have just read this card and it would have been the whole reading. Bat Spirit reminds you that at present you are in unknown territory and may feel as if you are lost. Holy crap, that's right. I'm not even going to pull the cards up again to remind you of what that was in the reading. But anyway, focus, Alex. However, you are called to trust that your intuition will be a reliable guide as you give birth to something new and unfamiliar. Bat Spirit has listened in the darkness of night and has heard all your hopes and dreams, your fears and worries, and assures you that this new version of your dream, this move from darkness into light, from lost to found and death to rebirth, comes to fruition with love at its core. Bat Spirit asks you to trust that what seems to have died is actually shape-shifting into something even more meaningful and wondrous than before. If you feel you are in the dark, know that come morning, all will be revealed and things will be in a new form that is right for you. The protection message is, what are you refusing to let die? Bat Spirit is gently nudging you to let go of your need to cling to the familiar story that has already run its course. A new story is poised to be born. Some dreams were only meant to last for a moment in time. Sometimes they were only there to slow you down as you recalibrated in preparation for the new life that will give you what you really want. Perhaps you need to grieve as you say goodbye to something. At least you're saying goodbye to its familiar form. Perhaps you need to let go of a part of you that must die so you can be reborn. This temporary time in the dark doesn't have to be scary or sad though. Bat Spirit gives you her powers of perception and awareness as you learn to listen deeply and navigate these unknown caves of temporary emptiness. You will emerge with a new perspective, and Bat Spirit will witness your giving birth to the life that matches the intentions and desires of your heart and soul. Now, seriously, this gone. Do this work. That is what the bat is telling you to do. And then, I hadn't even thought about it that way, but I mean, you have Knight of Cups, Page of Cups, King. Where's the Queen of Cups? She was at the center somewhere, right? Oh yeah. King and Queen of Cups. These are a lot of people. There's a lot of new emotional relationships on the horizon. I think I did briefly allude to that, but I mean, it's actually a central focus of this reading. It's very integral to the meaning of this reading. Bat, thank you. I wish I had read that before because it would have summed everything up. We could have saved ourselves 40 minutes. I kid. It's been a pleasure to sit with you and to read these cards. Now, I'm really sorry if anybody watching this wants readings that are more along the lines of you're going to win the lottery or you're going to meet some hot man or woman to hook up with or whatever. That's not how I read, and there are lots of other people out there who do read that way, and may you find them, and more power to you if that's what you enjoy. I don't look at life that way. I believe that we attract what we need. So if there's meant to be some hot whatever for me, it'll show up. It hasn't, so obviously it's not the right time for that. Anyway, on that note, I wish you a fantastic week ahead, and I hope that you find balance and peace and harmony, and that you can unplug from the horrible constant background noise of the fear-mongering and unaligned nonsense that takes up so much time and space for so many. Let go of fear. It's just doesn't serve you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Go, 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 go. It took many years of following up all the stuff I've been talking about myself, and half believing before I was able to walk on the earth as though I had the right to be here. It took many years of vomiting up all the filth I've been taught about myself, and now I know and half believed before I was able to walk on the earth as though I had the right to be here, but now I know. It took too many years of vomiting up all the filth I've been taught about myself, but now I know. By the way, people say love takes time. I'm in a hurry. Let's make this fast. Go, go, go. It took 10
many years of vomiting up all the filth I've been taught about myself and had to leave before I was able to walk on the earth as though I had the right to be here. It took many years to be here. Many. Now I know. It took many years of vomiting up all the filth I've been taught about myself and had to leave before I was able to walk on the earth as though I had the right to be here. But now I know. But now I know. By the way, did I hear you say I'm in a hurry, yeah. Took many years. It took many years of vomiting up